Let's go. You lead the way. Where are we headed? Towards a net zero future, of course. Cleaner water, more electricity, a sustainable society. That's the destination we've set ourselves. This we know. Yes, we know exactly where we're going, but we need to get there quicker. So, let's build on the progress we've already made by working and walking together. With the right partners, tools and ideas, we'll become an unstoppable force. This we know. Right now, there are businesses who are putting technology and sustainability at the heart of everything they do. Brave leaders turning maybes into realities and building something better for everyone. Now is the time for companies to take center stage, to look to the future and reinvent themselves today, empowering others to do the same tomorrow. Yes, we know what the future holds, and we know how to get there. So, let's take charge of the journey today.
Hi everyone, my name's Anup Sagu from Accenture, and it's my pleasure today to be joined with a couple of my colleagues, Vishal and Lancelot, to have a discussion around powering sustainability through partnerships. The sustainability agenda is now all around us, and as a result of the pandemic, it's really become very visible that the accountability that different organizations, countries, entities are really having to make to take action. So it's really exciting for us this year to be virtually part of COP26 with three great organizations coming together in Alibaba, Johnson Controls and Accenture to have a dialogue around its importance specifically within China and how it's evolving. So what I'm going to do to start the dialogue off is I'm going to ask my friends to introduce themselves, and then we'll get straight into the conversation around sustainability and how we're working together to take action. So Lancelot, let me hand it over to you first to introduce yourself and also get a few words from you about how you're feeling about COP26 this year.
Thank you, Anup. Actually, it's my great pleasure to be able to participate in today's discussions around sustainability, ESG. My name is Lancelot Guo. I'm from Alibaba, and I'm currently running sales operation and a global ecosystem for Alibaba Cloud. So in the last actually 24 months also, as you say very well, that because of COVID and because of a lot of changes in the business and the social and the life terms, a lot of businesses like us are more focused on sustainability and also on ESG matters. And I very much look forward to hearing more from the COP26 today. In this meeting, actually, we want to hear more from all the peers, other organizations, countries, how they are doing to deal with the sustainability and the environmental issues that we are looking for and also we are working on. Thank you very much. Back on to you.
Thanks a lot, Lancelot. Vishal, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and great to be here. So Anup and Lancelot. So my name is Vishal Lang. I am from Johnson Control, and I lead the Asia Pacific region. I'm based here in Shanghai. So very quickly about myself, I have been in the industrial world for the last 20 plus years, and the theme of sustainability of COP26. I mean, this is a generational problem. This is really imperative that we focus on that as professional, as citizen, as a father, or just actors of the of the overall economy. I look at my story, whether it was in the plastics industry where we're looking at recyclable, I was in energy looking at renewables, and I actually joined Johnson Control about 3 years ago because, and we will have opportunity to talk about this, but there is a big role to play in terms of buildings on how we participate, to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. So COP26, it's a must. We're so happy to be here and to be engaged in the discussion today.
Thanks a lot, Vishal. And just from my perspective, I'm based in Singapore. When I'm not doing a role as a facilitator, my day job is I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Accenture in growth markets, which is all of our territories outside of North America and Europe. And for me, the sustainability topic is in almost every single conversation that we are having with our clients. I mean, on our side, in the last year, we've really been rolling out a new value framework within our business to make sure that we're really focused on the impact that technology can have within our clients' organizations and businesses. And within that, sustainability has become a big thread. So from my standpoint, to be honest, there's not even one client conversation I have had in the last 6 to 9 months that hasn't somehow had some thread of sustainability associated with it. And I think it's really great that our 3 organizations are coming together, because when you get down to the guts of it, a lot of it comes down to technology and innovation. So it's great to have the opportunity with Vishal and Lancelot to have a dialogue together. So just maybe to kick the dialogue off, let's start with sustainability and its relevance to China. It is a topic that I always say to a lot of people is one of these profound topics that almost is relevant for any part of the world, any country, company, individual. It's a topic that brings all of us together. But I think in the last year, it's gained a special level of importance in China. And I'd like Vishal maybe to kick us off to give his perspective on how he sees sustainability and its relevance to China increasing in the past year. Vishal?
Yeah, thank you very much, Anup. Absolutely, in China, as you said, it's on everybody's mind, it's on everybody's lips, and it's in all of the conversation that you are having. 90%, if not sometimes 100% of the conversation we have with customers, with partners. So why is it so relevant in the world and in China in particular? I mean, the government, President Xi Jinping has clearly set the goals. And for me, I am just amazed being in Shanghai and in China in general of how it has resonated with everybody. Everybody knows about China needs to, peak emission by 2030. It needs to be carbon neutral by 2060. It's part of the 14th year plan, 5-year plan. And I see when we talk to customers, to our partners, now every city's government, mayors, actors, trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to achieve those goals? So this is, and when China does something, they are really serious about this. So this is also what is great about it, because we're going to see speed, we're going to see action. Now, I think you talk a little bit about ecosystem and partnership. That's why we are all here together. There is also, it is clear that there is no question that nobody can do it alone, right? It's not just one company or even one country or one industry, one actors. We have to do this alone, because we have to marry, infrastructure policies, technology, digitalization, the hardware, and so everything needs to come together. So that's why it's so exciting. In my view, the government has set up the goals. It's up to us to come together and really make the vision to become a reality.
Thanks a lot, Vishal. Yes, it is true that actually, interestingly enough, China is a country where partnerships is very much at the center of how business works. And maybe to get a perspective from yourself, Lancelot, from the amazing Ali story and the profoundness of your organization, how do you see the sustainability agenda and its importance to China?
So now, while we are recording this conversation, right, I'm sitting in a building 3 years ago when I came to this region, what we call today Hangzhou's new business center, EFC. This whole area is a flat and building ground. So 3 years later, when I look around, we have more than 20 buildings, high rises going, and a lot of business going on here, a lot of commercials going on here. Let me just say this, this is almost like a representative of the whole history of the last 4 decades of China. China has been amazing in a sense of growth as a country or as an economy, right? The first 20 years, if I remember, the only theme was about growth. We didn't even think about how that growth impacts the environment or the social situations or all that, right? So starting from 20 years ago, we started to say, okay, this is a time we need to think about how we want to make this sustainable. So I remember at that time, I joined a lot of discussions panels, and we talk around about it. But seriously, there wasn't really some solid, or policy level, projects that we want to get onto the ground and say, okay, all the business and the corporates, we want to head down towards the same direction. And I would say the last 24 months has been a critical moment for the entire China and for companies like Alibaba, right? We start to say, okay, this is becoming a very key theme of our business. Other than continue to grow, we need to also look at the other side of the equation, which is sustainability, the environmental issues, how we make the business green, and how we make it not only ourselves green, but also our whole ecosystems green. While as a platform business, as Alibaba, as you know, that we have a huge impact about how people, in China, how they live and how they operate and how they go to work and how they make everybody's life happier and sustainable in the longer term. So I'm extremely happy that in Alibaba, later we can talk about that. We have a lot of solid projects now going on. Together with Accenture and JCI, we are building more and more initiatives that we want to get this initiative going. So that's I'm very excited, and I think this excitement will drive us forward in the next few years.
Thank you, Lancelot. Listen, I think what for me is always unique and fantastic about the China market is the ability to take action, and I think we're really going to see some exciting developments on this topic now that, as you mentioned, action is being driven through policies, and I think we'll see a massive acceleration on the ground. And it's really exciting to hear you and your organization talk so profoundly about it. Let's think a little bit broader than just sustainability for a second, because sustainability is one component of the broader environment, social governance agenda that exists. And it seems to me that in the recent months and times, even the broad ESG and responsible business agenda, as we like to call it in our organization, has become much more important. You alluded to that yourself a little bit, Lancelot, in how you explained the role of Alibaba in China. How do you see the ESG agenda and the broader nature of that appearing in China as well? Do you see that really materializing on the ground outside of just sustainability?
Indeed, this has been a huge change, I would say, in the last 12 to 24 months. Actually, Alibaba has been playing a very critical role, in my opinion, in this whole discussion between sustainability and ESG, because for sustainability, sometimes we can be very focused on certain spots, right? But when we talk about ESG today, if you look into the entire China, right, it's no longer a story about only efficiency improvement. At the same time, we're talking about how we make the equality and how we make everybody's lives happier, and every business going on with a higher quality. That's becoming a very centerpiece of our business agenda. So, for instance, when Alibaba in the last I would say many years, when we talk to the society, when we talk to the ecosystem, very central metrics we're using was like either revenue or some term like a GMV, general merchandise value. It's all about the economic size, right? Nowadays, when we talk to a lot of our partners, we say, okay, this is something we want to look after. However, there are also other factors. For example, how we make this business, greener, how we make the whole ecosystem more equalized and everybody can benefit from it. And most importantly, how we make those, the traditionally business stronger organizations, for example, the farmers and the logistic delivery boys and all that sort of groups laborers. And when they work with us, they can be more powerful and they can be more prosperous. And most importantly, I think, for technology, it's the centerpiece of our business, right? We are looking to different ways, approaches, how we can make the ESG, not just at a slogan or policy level, it's also at the very real business, projects and operation level. This is something what we have done in the last 6 months internally. We have a huge numbers of discussions around how we convert the business model from a one-side driven to multi-side driven, and to take care after all the business requirements from our partners, ecosystems, and our customers. So I think that ESG is really the term that we want to use and to help with all the businesses around.
Yeah, and I think we can definitely see the impact of that in China right now, in what we're seeing happen in the business environment with issues around governance and data becoming prominent. So, all of this coming together at this point in time really has a significant importance. Vishal, just from your perspective, being a more industrial organization with a long history in the China market, just interested to get your view on how you see the broader ESG agenda emerging and how it's affecting you and your business.
Yes, well, fully aligned with what you described and what Lancelot described. You talk about our industrial roots. You're right. Johnson Control is more than 130 years old, and actually, it's funny or interesting. We started with the invention of the first, room electric thermostat to regulate the temperature. So you would argue that that was the first kind of smart, building device. And we have been. So what does it mean? It means we have been in energy efficiency, for the longest time. Before we called it sustainability, before it was fancy. So this is what we have known for many years. But to your point, now we have moved to ESG, which is really bigger, broader. But what we like about ESG is really that for corporation like ours, you set clear goals, KPIs, and you know how corporation works, right? KPIs, it means we have to meet those KPIs. We go public with those KPIs. The board review the progress of those KPI, whether it's environmental, social, and governance. So I think it's really, is really powerful in terms of where we are going. I mean, we look at ourselves and we say, we have to be accountable. When I think about the industry and I bring it back to China, where we see so many cities developing, in the country, the three big sources of consumer of energy is transportation, industrial, and buildings. And when we know that buildings account for 40%, up to 40% of the greenhouse gas emission, we say to ourselves internally at JCI, I mean, we have to do something, guys and girls, right? We have to, our product and services have to have an impact. We need to work with people like Accenture, like Alibaba, and we have to tackle this problem. But ESG, I think, bring us together in terms of how we're going to do this. I also like the fact that I think it's going to bring consistency in the industry as well. And there is more room. I mean, there is work to do in China in terms of how we measure things, how we track things, and how we drive the overall agenda. So now fully aligned with this bigger theme of ESG and taking the world by storm over the last couple of years.
Thanks for that, Vishal. Listen, sitting here in Singapore, I can tell you we are extremely grateful for your invention. Without some of your technologies here in Singapore, it would be very difficult with our climate to operate in any sense day to day. So thank you for your invention. Let's move on to talk a little bit more about technology, because certainly from our perspective, when we start to look at the real actions that have got to be taken around attacking the sustainability issue, one of the fundamental points is actually having the technology and the data platforms to really understand where you even are. And certainly what we see out there is, you can do sustainability strategies, but a lot of the execution of that into real sense is going to be through the implementation of technology and using data in a very unique and differentiated way. And of course, between the three of us, we've recently inked a memorandum of understanding to come together as three organizations, take some of the unique assets that each of us has, whether it's the OpenBlue solution from Johnson Controls, whether obviously it's the power of Ali Cloud combined with some of the consulting and implementation capabilities that Accenture can bring to enable companies to move faster. And I'm keen to just hear a little bit from you on how important you see technology being at the center point of this. I mean, of course, from an Accenture standpoint, we live in the technology world day to day. So for us, it's really at the heart of, let me call it, taking the action around sustainability and moving beyond the talk. But Vishal, from your perspective, just talk a little bit about your view on what we just signed last week, briefly, and also how you see the underpinning importance of technology in all this.
Yes. So, what we signed last week, my view is that it's groundbreaking. Of course, it's only the beginning. We need to go and execute on what we have signed. But why is it so important is because by ourselves, we cannot do it alone. So let me illustrate a little bit in the context of what we do. We at Johnson Controls, we know how to control, how to manage buildings. We know the emission, we know all of that. But to go to the next stage of efficiency, of greenness, we have to harness the potential of data, of AI, of those type of solution. And we can only do it through the cloud. I mean, the cloud will help us a lot. And that's where I see that the partnership with Alibaba and Lancelot on his team. I mean, customers will have questions around cybersecurity, will have data privacy, will have, I want this specific application. And to make all of this work, while we have, I would say, maybe the domain knowledge, we don't have as much on harnessing all of this and using technology such as the one of Alibaba to do that, right? So this is really important from that side. Now, when we go and talk to our customers, we have our view of how a building works. But I think, for example, Accenture, I look at Accenture and I say, you guys understand the strategy of the customers, the overall comprehensive, view of what they are after, what is the real customer needs, right? So it's really important for us not to just look at buildings. They may have, their employees concerned, they have their own growth concerns. So we don't always have access to that. I think Accenture can definitely bring that view to the table. But more than that, after that, how do we go to the market? What, a commercial model, a financial model? How do we do a service versus, an OPEX versus a CAPEX? I think all of those things really contribute to the overall success. It's not just me innovating on a thermostat and saying, okay, this device is better. I think you need this ecosystem to really bring it to life and make sure it's relevant for the customers. It also answers what the government is all about. And we talk about the KPI of ESG so that we track progress. So MOU, super excited. The partnership, super excited. A lot of work to do, but boys, it's really good.
Thanks, Vishal. And Lancelot, from an Alibaba perspective, obviously your organization has really mastered the art of data when it comes to commerce. I remember reading some fantastic Harvard Business Review articles on how Ali sees data, and of course you're a technology organization by birthright. So how do you see technology and its importance, and your thoughts on the MOU that we've just signed between us, please?
Yeah, so just like you said, at Alibaba, we are a firm believer that technology and the data technology in particular will be the ultimate cure of solving a lot of ESG problems. As an organization, we don't want to just to show attitude or launch a number of marketing slogans. Indeed, we want to get onto the ground using very specific projects, right? The first project we have always been sort of using is to ourselves. For example, we are now modernizing our own data centers. We use some very modernized technology like the liquid cooling, to help to cool our data centers, which we are able to achieve, for example, the PUE level to 1.09, which is industry leading. And that saves 70 million kilowatts just in one data center. So we also want to start to help our own clients because a lot of them are big corporates. They run huge buildings and run a lot of data centers. We want to, together with Johnson Control and Accenture's technology, to help them go from one way, the old model of growth as the only KPI to, ESG-driven type of, technology adoption. And that way, actually, we can help them not only to grow their business, but also, on the other hand, to build a more greener technology. Thirdly, we start to see a lot of new requirements coming up, right? Recently, we're working with some of the energy industries and the manufacturing industries. They are in the past very heavy, the energy consumption, the customers. So today, when they come to us, they say, okay, we want to put all our, the energy consumption into your data center. At the same time, you also want to use your internet technology, especially the AI and the data technology, to analyze how we use data, how we, use the energies into the right spot with the right pattern, and how we optimize our operations to best achieve our own ESG goals. So that's sort of a requirement that we're hearing a lot. So last week, when in the Apsara conference, when we announced the joint, the project together with Visa and Accenture team, and right after the conference, I'm already receiving dozens of requests from our other partners, ecosystem, friends, and they come to me to say, okay, we want to learn a bit more about this, because our customers, their customers, are already reaching out to them to say, okay, we want to use technology to achieve our ESG, issues. You might have heard that in the recent time, just a couple of weeks ago, there's a big story about in China that many provincial governments are shutting down the electricity supplies to many, manufacturing companies and even IDCs. And people are saying, okay, in order to avoid such issues to happen in the future, we have to optimize our operating model, have to modernize our technology usages, and use more data to supply our database and to supply our business operation going forward. So that's actually the very unique opportunity. And also, I believe this is also very, very helpful technology to many of our partners, customers, and to general society.
I think your example on the power is a really fantastic example, not only of the sheer impact that this agenda is having, but also, the determination of the country to take action on making some progress. And as Vishal mentioned earlier, if together we can hit the buildings and the data centers, it will have a very significant impact on the overall agenda. So it's a great topic to start with, and one that can quite clearly have significant impact in the local country. I guess that brings me on to a slightly different sort of thread around sustainability, which is more around the sort of growth differentiation angle, because it sort of seems to me that nowadays, given sustainability is everywhere, almost every organization is using sustainability in some shape or form to reposition and rebrand itself. I mean, recently I've seen some very interesting examples from organizations that you might not think about using sustainability, but the power of it and the the level of energy around it is so significant. So it seems like it is a very significant differentiator. So it's not really just a defensive play for companies to make sure that they're compliant. It's much more than that, I think, in the world that we're in today, even though the agenda is just emerging in China. Lancelot, is that how you see things on the ground in China? Are you already seeing companies seeing sustainability as an opportunity to differentiate?
Yeah, this is again why I say ESG is a hitting point right now, because it has changed the course. In the past, when we talk about sustainability, the responsibility is always the term very much next to it. Sort of like everybody sees this as a burden, as a cost, as whatever. But if you look into the story that the provincial governments is shutting down the power, right? If we look into from another angle, we are today seeing a lot of data centers in the past built by different enterprises. They have very high PUE level and a very low utilization. They typically buy like 100,000 machines and only 5% or 10% are used, in the average term. So when they look at the power supply becoming a problem, they say, okay, let's move that onto a cloud installation. And the modern technology as cloud is becoming also a way of differentiating their business and helping them not only to reduce the power consumption, but also help them to reduce the cost, improve their efficiency and the capability of innovation. So while we're looking at that, it's also a huge differentiation for Alibaba, right? Because we use the technology not only in the past sense only to talk about how we lower the cost, but on the other hand, we are also now helping our customers lower their carbon consumption. And this is becoming a very differentiating point. Now, I'll give you another example. We have an application called AMAP, which is a navigation tool to help, in the past when you drive out, you want to go from spot A to spot B, and it gives the right route to drive towards, right? And we recently added a new capability to tell you when you drive through different routes, what the power consumption level is. And you can use the less, congestion, routes, and also get you faster there. At the same time, also help you reduce the carbon consumption. All that features while we are supporting our customers, our business users, and also government agencies, it's all becoming not only a cost, but also a differentiating point. And the people are more and more favoring such a differentiate point because this really helps them to drive the business forward and also help them to really make the business more effective and more efficient. That's actually the beautiful picture, and we are seeing more and more. We're shifting our direction from pure cost to more differentiation, more innovation, and more productivity, and so on and so forth. That it's becoming a totally different story.
Great. And Vishal, your products and services are really at the center of making this happen. So I'm interested to, again, get some feedback from you around how do your clients typically see this? Where do they see growth and differentiation as well as just sort of improving the efficiency of their operation as part of the proposition here?
Yeah, definitely. And we have a wide spectrum of customers, but I think definitely the theme of differentiation become more and more prevalent. And, it's like differentiation, sustainability, but also performance of the business. I have seen a bit of the different cycle, or at least the curve evolving. You go back a bit in time and you would say, okay, maybe sustainability was a bit of a buzzword. Some people would embark on it, some people won't. Now we see, hey, it's a differentiation. I think soon it will be, if you don't do it, we'll be cut out of business. Just a very simply put. So it's both now going on the offense and being proactive and trying to to make certain advancement in terms of technology. So we see customers which have been doing this for some time. They look at retrofitting their building, saving their energy cost. But now, as we discussed before, it's also about how they engage their people in terms of social governance, how it's a wellness in the office, how they're going to collaborate more with all of the collaboration tools. So all of this is really coming together in terms of how it differentiates. I also want to point out that, in my view, we need to make it a very operational, very visible. So we track the benefit for our customers. A customer says, I want to save 10% of my cost. You know, my business has gone down. I need to reduce my OPEX, CAPEX. What solution do you have? I mean, these are the very typical questions that we have and that we receive. The good news is that we have solution, right? We have solution, and with this partnership, we're going to bring it to the next level. So tracking exactly what the customer wants, delivering on that is really important. You talk a bit about growth in the economy that we have, whether it's in China or even outside China. I mean, we see a shift. For example, we know that commercial buildings either going to be a bit flat or the activity is going to go down. But as Lancelot mentioned, data center is exploding because we need more online capacity. So one of the things that we want to do with the MOU is first look at our own value proposition with the data center that we have and with the technology that we have, kind of eat our own dog food, but how after that we can bring that to the market, you know, to other customers. And this will be a big differentiation in terms of how we do that. We also look at the economy and we say, hey, there is data center, there is a hospital. Well, you would know that in China, there is a big demand for hospital with the aging population, with the healthcare. We also know in China that, okay, the tier 1, tier 2 cities will continue to grow, but not at the same pace as what it used to be. You know, the Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, now we are talking about tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 cities, also going to require, you know, new technology, and this whole, you know, building and how we can drive sustainability is going to be very much in demand in those areas, and maybe a bit different from the big cities, which are going to be more retrofit. So overall, definitely differentiation, room for growth, and make it very actionable and concrete for our customers and for our communities.
Thank you, Vishal, and thank you, Lancelot. That was really a fantastic short dialogue on many very broad topics, but hopefully everyone else can really hear and feel the passion that we all have for this topic, and also the massive opportunity that is in front of us. And I love the way that Vishal ended that last segment with the focus on really taking action. And I think it's really great to see three wonderful organizations coming together, collaborating. I mean, this is the new way to drive value through technology and innovation, I think. So it's great to see us taking on this big issue, taking the bull by the horns to try and help organizations in China take action. So firstly, on behalf of Accenture, a big thank you to both of you and your organizations for coming together with us. Also, a big thank you for participating in this dialogue. We're doing it remotely, but it sort of seems to work okay. So it's great to have the opportunity to meet and speak to you both. And hopefully for the audience that is listening to this, that was useful. It's a useful example of some interesting collaboration happening in our part of the world in Asia, but also hopefully some insights on and points of view that we've given to the group on how we see the sustainability agenda over here. So with that, thank you very much, and hope you have a great rest of COP26. Take care.